I went to dinner with a GF and her parents. After we ate, the owner came out and asked how the meal was, and then we left without a bill ever coming to the table. On the way home I asked GF about it, and she said her dad had tabs at all the restaurants he liked to eat at. As we were leaving, the valet brought the cars around, and I mentioned I liked his Tahoe. I asked what year it was and he kind laughed and said whatever is the newest one. I didn't know he owned a car dealership in another city. I work at a luxury resort. People call to book rooms with me all day, and they aren't cheap. I can tell when it's obvious a young couple who had to scrape together the dough for the cheapest room. But every once in a while I'll get a call from someone who casually calls and asks to book the biggest room without asking for the price. They know exactly what they want and the price means nothing to them. 2. 5K a night? No biggie. Here is my card number. Unique or somewhat odd collections of things most people don't collect. I worked in a high-end whiskey store for many years, and the number of shabbily dressed men from overseas who strode in to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on whiskey for their collection was staggering. They were always chatty, knowledgeable, and above all casual. One man in particular had been collecting for decades. His wife was fully supportive. She had her own collection of rare items, he implied, and he enjoyed traveling the world to pick them up as an excuse to go someplace. Conversations often went like this. Customer, I see from your website you have the rare bottling from 1967? Do you have any in stock now? Me, we do, yes. It's downstairs. In fact, we have a few of that vintage, as well as the 1953, 1966, and 1972. Would you like to know the prices? Customer, oh great. I think that fills a couple of gaps in my collection. And if not, the guys and my wife will enjoy cracking one open. Can you package them up for me, please? Me, would. Would you like to know how much they are, sir? Customer, can you ship them all to my place? In fact, if you have discounts for bulk items, I'd like to know what other vintages you have. And so on. They avoid any discussion of money. When paying for anything, they like to do it privately/quietly/ before anyone else is aware, so you end up walking in and out of places feeling like you haven't paid, almost as if money doesn't exist. They don't flaunt it. Source, I was dating a girl, and didn't realize she and her whole family were rich until her dad picked us up for dinner in a brand new Mercedes, proceeded to pay for everything during our trip, and our Christmas presents were first-class flights to the US, from Australia, for a ski holiday. That's around AUD $10-15K, 7 to 11,000 US dollars, per person. He also financially supports his other daughter at Cornell University/living in the US. I grew up poor, and still am, LOL. But I never realized how poor until I met that family. Back in high school I used to do rowing, and at the rowing club there was this guy who wasn't great at socializing, was a little awkward, but he was friendly so I didn't mind him. We often went out on the same boats and would talk to each other, as much as was possible while rowing, and at the end his dad would always pick him up afterwards wearing sweatpants, slippers and a hoodie. You might understand why, then, I didn't believe my friend when he told me that they were one of the richest families in the world. I looked them up, and sure enough, there they were, worth an estimated $15.5 billion. Now whenever I see someone out in public looking like they're wearing what they slept in, I always assume they're mega rich, and don't care about a thing anymore. The type that nonchalantly offers you a spot in their luxury box at a game or concert, or covers your course fees at a golf outing, even though you barely know them. When asked about their income, they respond with "I'm comfortable" without elaborating. Not knowing prices for common household items/foodstuffs. Either they're getting the super deluxe version, and don't know the standard price, or they haven't done their own food shopping for years. Edit. To clarify, it's not about knowing the exact price of a product, most don't, but having no real conception of even a ballpark figure. Being used to buying vastly more expensive things, they guess what they believe to be cheap, yes, like Bill Gates' appearance on Ellen. Wearing a t-shirt and jeans in a room of people wearing suits. My company CEO does this all the time. Being unimpressed by rich people shit. I represented a guy who was / is rich. I mean as in filthy. Owns buildings, plural, in Manhattan. I was in-house counsel to his company. So one day he comes to my office and tells me he needs me to go to a meeting with him cross town, and about 30 blocks north. He tells me to wait, he has to get the car. So I am standing on the street, and he pulls up in the company van that his employee use for building maintenance, to carry stuff to renovate spaces for new tenants, etc. It's pretty crappy. On the way I asked him why he was driving this, all things considered. He was an older self-made guy who was pretty down to earth. Why the van? He said obviously he could drive or take a cab, years before Uber, but why bother? In Manhattan, most spaces in Midtown on down are parking for commercial vehicles only, and parking a car can be pricey. The van had commercial plates, so he could pretty much park in front of wherever he was going. Why waste money on a cab or parking a car? Couldn't argue with that. We parked right in front of the building. If they are over 60 but have perfect teeth. This applies more in countries other than the US, because everyone seems to have perfect teeth there. Really good teeth cost a lot of money. When people think of expensive clothing, they often think of fancy brands like Gucci, but really rich people usually consider these brands to be tacky for the most part. There are entire luxury brands of suits / dresses / clothing / watches / etc. that are used to display wealth among upper-class people that would be kind of innocuous to the average person. Most anyone could recognize a Rolex, but to a person who isn't in on upper-class mores, a Patek Philippe might slip under their nose. One of my high school brothers is fucking rich, while rest of us are very normal. He did nothing special, but he always wander around at near shops after school, some random branded shop that no high school boys will ever need. One time we finally asked him why he didn't went back home after school. He said he is waiting for his driver to come. Another time I met him very coincidentally at the boarding place at the airport. I was going to Vienna, and he is to London. He has nothing on him, no bags or carriages, and his hair is wet. Turns out he just took a shower in the lounge. My boss drives a $2,000 Mercedes from the 80s, usually wears jeans and shitty clothes at all times, no jewelry or watch, owns a $150,000 house. He's worth $2 billion. Old boss to a company I worked for. He drove an old Toyota Hilux and worked in the factory of the building. I remember work breakup I spotted him put $300,000 on a roulette table. Doubled it and put it in his pocket. He would always ask me impossible questions at work, and once I got it right. He bought me lunch. Status symbols are for the lower classes and the climbers. The wealthy just live in whatever is comfortable to them.